Gentlemen, I call this meeting of the City Council to order, and we will begin with our with our roll call.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
And to begin with tonight, we have a presentation for our annual audit, and so Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, it's that time of year again, and the numbers have been looked at, and everything is in, the report's in front of you. And we do have Williams Keepers team here tonight to talk to us, but I'm going to let Vicki introduce who's here. So we'll give you a full introduction.
Good evening, council. We have Amanda Schultz, CPA with Williams Keepers, and her associate, Kristen Brown, CPA, is also here, and they will present the audit for you.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Vicki. So yeah, we'll just go through our PowerPoint presentation again this evening. As Vicki mentioned, I'm Amanda Schultz. I'm an audit partner at Williams Keepers in Columbia, and Kristen is one of our audit managers, and she was the manager on the audit again this year, so we'll be splitting our presentation this evening. All right, so we issued several reports as a result of our audit this year. Two of those reports were issued in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. I'll cover the independent auditor's report, or our opinion letter, probably the most important piece of information, in the next few slides, and Kristen will cover the auditor's communication letter later on in the presentation. There were two additional reports that were issued this year. The city had expenditures of federal awards exceeding $750,000, so it was required to have a single audit performed this year. It's been a number of years since the city met that requirement or met that threshold requiring a single audit, so I just wanted to highlight those two reports real quick. There is a report on internal control and compliance related to financial reporting that's issued in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards, commonly referred to as the Yellow Book, if you've ever heard that term. And that report reported no material weaknesses and no instances of non-compliance. And there was another report on internal control and compliance related to major federal programs, which was issued in accordance with the uniform guidance, and that report had an unmodified or a clean opinion on compliance and no findings. So the results of our single audit were very favorable this year. No issues with internal control or compliance that were noted as a result of our additional procedures. So getting to the good stuff, the city issued an annual comprehensive financial report, or an ACFR, again this year. In addition to the financial section, which is what's required under generally accepted accounting principles, the ACFR includes introductory and statistical sections. Those are both additional GFOA requirements, so this report is a sign of excellence in financial reporting. The city received the GFOA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting on its fiscal year 2022 or prior year report, which represents the 34th consecutive year the city has received this award. I think that's probably the longest standing award of any of our governmental audit clients, so certainly something to be proud of for the city. So the financial section itself, as I mentioned previously, this is the only part of the audited financial statements or that complete ACFR that is required under generally accepted accounting principles to be presented. So it was the focus of our audit, and it'll also be the focus of our presentation this evening. The financial section includes all of the components that are listed on this slide, and I'll touch on a few of them in the following slides. So the first component is really the most important part of the ACFR. It's the independent auditor's report, or the opinion letter, that can be found on pages 1 through 3 in the audit report. We issued an unmodified or a clean opinion on the city's financial statements. In our opinion, those financial statements as of and for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023, are presented fairly in all material respects in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. So again, that's a clean opinion. It is the best opinion that the city can get on its financial statements. Following that independent auditor's report is another really important component of the ACFR, the management's discussion and analysis, which is on pages 4 through 16. If you take a look at the city's audited financial statements, they aren't comparative, so only the current year, fiscal year 2023, is presented in the statements and the notes. But the MD&A actually compares the current year to the prior year, and it includes a high-level overview of the financial and other factors that impact the city and its audited financial statements. So a lot of good reading, good perspective from management of the city is included in those pages of the MD&A, again on pages 4 through 16. Jumping into the financial statements themselves, there's multiple sets of financial statements. The first that are presented in the report are the government-wide financial statements, and those are on pages 17 and 18. So the city has both governmental and business type activities, both of which are included in these statements. So really everything that the city has to account for, all of its funds, all of its assets, including long-term assets such as capital assets, and all of its liabilities, including long-term debt, are reported in these statements. So again, everything that the city is required to report in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles is included in these statements. So it puts everything together. At a very high level, and I'm sure that table is pretty small and therefore difficult to read, but total assets and deferred outflows increased by $2.8 million. That's primarily due to increases in cash and cash equivalents, intergovernmental receivable, the net pension plan asset related to loggers, and the pension plan other line item, offset by a decrease in leases receivable. And total liabilities decreased $2.1 million, primarily due to decreases in accounts payable, bonds, and a financed purchase, unearned revenue for leases, and pension plan other, also related to loggers, offset by an increase in unearned revenue related to grants, really just due to timing there. So that was essentially the balance sheet, the government-wide balance sheet. The table on the next slide here is the government-wide income statement. Total revenue increased $2.3 million, primarily due to increases in capital grants and contributions, most notably for the airport. Miscellaneous income and interest income on deposits. And total expenses increased $1.7 million due to increases in general government, public safety, and streets programs and functions. The second set of financial statements presented in the report are the fund financial statements. Those are on pages 19 through 25. At a very high level for the city's governmental funds, which is the city's general fund and any major special revenue funds. On the balance sheet, total fund balances accumulated $11 million at the end of fiscal year 2023. And on the income statement for the governmental funds, there was an increase in the net change in fund balances. So there was about $1 million of net income at the end of fiscal year 2023 compared to a little over, or close to, $900,000 of net income at the end of fiscal year 2022. Can we stop scrolling here, Patrick? Go down one more. I can try it again. Okay, thank you. So then on the proprietary fund statements, primarily for the utilities, at a high level on the balance sheet, the total net position or equity of those funds was a little over $16 million. And then there was also net income of a little over $1 million at the end of fiscal year 23 reported in those funds. Following the fund financial statements are the notes to the financial statements on pages 26 through 47. Overall, the current year notes are consistent with the prior year notes. There is one new disclosure. It's note 11 related to conduit debt obligations on page 41. The key notes that support the amounts reported in the financial statements are listed here on this slide, the same key notes in the current year as in the prior year. So that is a very quick high-level overview of the audited financial statements. Before I turn it over to Kristen to cover our auditor's communication letter, are there any questions about the financial statements, the notes, anything you all may have already seen in the ACFR that you wanted to ask about?
Amanda, I read this, and overall, it looks like we got a good report.
Yes.
And I highlighted everything you sent us. I had someone ask me, and I know the answer to this, but because we're on TV, I kind of wanted to just have you say it on TV. Someone says, well, I said, we're going to listen to our auditor's report tonight. They said, well, who do you use for an auditor, and do they work for the city? I mean, are they one of our employees? And I said, no, we have to use an outside auditor.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if just for a minute, if you'd say a little bit about that, I think you've got that big building is that Columbia where I see Williams Keeper?
Yeah, we have offices in Columbia and in Jefferson
Is that a
City.
requirement by law that we have an independent auditor?
To have an independent external auditor,
Right.
yeah, perform your annual financial statement audit and that single audit in years in which it's required, so.
Okay, I just
yeah.
ask you that because I know people watch, they get confused.
Yeah.
And they get a little skeptical at times.
Yeah.
But in any case, thank you.
Yes, and we do have to go through a process, specifically when we work with governmental entities such as the city, of making sure that we are independent of the organization and that there are no conflicts of interest. It's part of our professional standards to kind of go through that process as well.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, great question, no problem. Okay, well, I will turn it over to Kristen to cover our auditor's communication letter.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Like Amanda said, I will be covering the auditor's communication letter, kind of at a high level, but you should have the full letter provided to you as well. So our auditing standards do require this communication to those charged with governance, and for the City of Mexico, that includes the mayor and the city council. So this letter includes our responsibility in relation to the financial statement audit. It also discusses the plan, scope, and timing of the audit. It discusses compliance with all ethical requirements regarding our independence. So like Amanda mentioned, ensuring that we are independent. It communicates that we are independent related to the city. It also identifies any significant risks that we have identified as part of the audit process. And then the next section describes any qualitative aspects of the city's significant accounting practices. So the first portion of this relates to any significant accounting policies. So this year, GASB 91 related to conduit debt obligations was implemented for the city. As Amanda mentioned, footnote 11 just describes the detail of conduit debt in a little bit more detail and provides some more information to the readers of the financial statements compared to years past. Essentially, it's providing details and providing clarification that the city has no liability related to the bonds or the conduit debt that has been issued. GASB 96, I will also mention, is the subscription-based information technology arrangement standard. It was essentially implemented by the city in the current year, although it had no financial impact, as none of the city's agreements met the definition of that standard. So that's something that will have to be assessed on an annual basis to ensure that it doesn't apply to the city in future years. We also note any upcoming standards that could impact the city. So the first one is GASB 100 related to accounting changes and error corrections. This will be effective for fiscal year 2024 and will just improve clarity of reporting related to those changes or corrections if there are any. The other one is GASB 101 related to compensated absences, and this will be effective for fiscal year 2025. It will just require a unified recognition and measurement as a result of liabilities for compensated absences, and just provide more appropriately reflect when a government incurs an obligation. So that one is, again, fiscal year 2025, so a few years from now. The next item that is covered in this section are significant accounting estimates of the city. So for the City of Mexico, this includes the allowance for uncollectible receivable balances, the useful lives of capital assets, the post-closure liability for the landfill, and the net pension asset and related deferred outflows and inflows related to the loggers pension plan. We also note that the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. And like Amanda mentioned, the key disclosures include the disclosures related to capital assets, debt, and commitments and contingencies. Also in this letter, we note there were no significant difficulties encountered during the audit or disagreements with management. Roger, Vicky, and her team are always well prepared for us, which makes a huge difference and allows the audit to go smoothly and allows us to report on a timely basis. So that's always a great thing, and again, it just makes the audit process go more smoothly when they are so prepared for us to come out on site. Lastly, this letter discusses if there are any corrected and uncorrected misstatements as part of our audit procedures, and we did not identify any uncorrected misstatements through the course of our audit. The last portion of this letter discusses internal control. So we include information related to the assessment of internal control, which is a part of our audit procedures. We do consider internal control as a basis for designing our audit procedures, but we do not issue an opinion on internal control through the course of our audit. But we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control, which is always a great thing to report. That is all related to that letter. Any questions that you have related to that specific letter, the audit in general, that we could answer?
Questions, anyone?
All right, well, as always, we appreciate the opportunity to be of service and the opportunity to present our findings to you today.
Well, thank you for coming this evening.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, moving on. We have minutes.
Move for the approval of January 22nd, regular session,
Second.
regular session.
Haig,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber. Weber,
Yes, how many times you want to say it?
Williams,
Yes.
All right. Item number five is a resolution. It's about a contract with the Natural Resources. Mr. Schleichel.
Yes, this is an annual update of our financial assurance instrument with the Department of Natural Resources regarding the post-closure of the city's landfill. And to cover the details, I will turn to Vicki Dinky, our Assistant Finance Director.
Good evening again. So in 1998, the city closed its sanitary landfill and began a 30-year post-closure process as required and regulated by Missouri Department of Natural Resources. As part of the post-closure process, the city prepares an estimate of annual and cumulative cost related to the post-closure activities and submits this report to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for approval. This year, staff will submit the executed contract for obligation along with an updated financial assurance instrument to MDNR, noting a potential post-closure cost estimate of $95,490.63. As of September 30th, 2023, the city has $176,227.87 set aside in the post-closure fund, which is anticipated to cover the estimated future expenses of post-closure. Based on the city's financial assurance instrument to be submitted, the city's Standard & Poor's credit rating of A stable, and the success of our post-closure funding mechanism, the city has been able to enter into a contract of obligation without being directed to expend any funds to purchase an extra insurance policy naming MDNR as an additional insured for estimated post-closure expenditures. Staff recommends council proceed with reading by title only and passage of the resolution authorizing the city manager to sign the contract of obligation with Missouri Department of Natural Resources. Questions?
Any questions?
I make a motion to read bill number 2024-05. Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes. Bill number 2024-05, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract or obligation with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources regarding estimated post-closure expenditures for the Sea of Mexico sanitary landfill. I make a motion to pass bill number 2024-05. Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next business on the agenda is a staff report about emergency repairs on a wet well pump. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor, this pump is at the wastewater treatment plant, and it is necessary for our processing, and we have a repair that's necessary, and to cover the details, Drew Wilford.
Well, good evening, council. As Bruce mentioned, the pump, excuse me, we had a pump failure out at the wastewater's intermediate wet well. We have a preventative and a maintenance agreement, I should say, with Vandevanter Engineering out of the St. Louis area. They came, took the pump, and did some diagnosing of the pump. Unfortunately, it's got several large issues that end up being a total repair cost of $24,285.29. We did price, just for comparison, a completely new pump, because at that price, we want to compare especially what it would be. This is a larger pump, and for a new pump, in that case, it would be $46,140. So a pretty substantial difference, though we are just over the 50% mark. After talking to Vandevanter, they don't recommend replacement pump. For the most part, it's still in good condition, believe it or not. They've got several repairs that need to be made. Given the importance of the intermediate wet well, keeping the plant moving forward, this was considered an emergency. Also due to the time frame. The time at which this happened was shortly after the prior council meeting, and there was an 8 to 10 week lead time. So this pump is really needed for our facility, and especially the wet weather times when we have higher flow. We're doing okay at the moment, we're holding our own, but when we get to some wetter time periods, it may be iffy. So we're asking for the authorization here to proceed with that emergency repair and move forward utilizing Vandevanter Engineering to repair at a cost of $24,285.29. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So it hasn't been.
Drew, I have absolutely no problem with your recommendation. I'm just out of curiosity. It says 8 to 10 weeks for the repair to come. Well, how long would it take for a new one?
That is a very good question. I'm afraid I don't have the answer for you. I probably should have, so I apologize. You know, when thinking that through, everything has a pretty large lead time these days. I'll see if I can get that answer, just so we have a reference point for some of these larger pumps that we're purchasing, that if they go bad, we'll know. But in this case, just the repair for the parts was a substantial lead time.
Yeah, no, it's just no problem. I was just out of curiosity.
So did we put in for lead time already?
Yes.
How long do these pumps last, or this is an old pump?
Yeah, I believe we're sitting at what are we at on this pump? I think it's about a 12-year mark, and we're expecting probably double that. Now, I may be wrong on that. I apologize without looking at my notes, but
That's all right.
yeah, we have plenty of life left in the pump, and talking to Vandevanter, they also agree that the course of action here would be repair the pump. We get another, I'm hoping, more than 12 years out of it.
Is there any warranty on their repairs?
As far as their repair work goes, my apologies. Apparently, I am a little out of sorts because I had looked over all of this and it's escaping me. Generally speaking, we do have a warranty with the repairs themselves, but it's not a one-year warranty. I do believe that the warranty is less than that. They're conducting a number of changes with this pump, everything from something as simple as the power cord itself, we'll say, to rewinding the stator and the motor and some other key part changes. So my apologies there, but I will get you that information.
Need a motion to go forward on this?
Make a motion to buy or approve, is that what I need? So you need approval to purchase the pump, repair of the pump. Is that what we need? We're not buying a pump.
Authorize.
Just authorize the repair.
Authorize to repair the pump.
$24,285.29.
Second.
Haig,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Our next thing are the claims.
Make a motion to pay the bills?
Second.
Did I hear a second?
Yeah.
That's Steve. Okay.
Haig,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
All right, then now we're on to council comments, and I will begin with Chris Miller.
Well, it's hard to believe, I don't have anything to say, except we had a good report from the audit, and I appreciate the quality work that our staff does, and hope Roger gets back quickly so he can take his place again. And not that you're not doing a good job, but we miss Roger, but fine work on y'all's part.
Hi, Chris Williams.
Congratulations. Always good, and you get spoiled. It's just like an expectation, but it does take a lot of work, and I appreciate all the work you do with that. Second, I'd like to extend some thanks to public safety. You guys had a few fires, and y'all handled that apartment fire and got the case solved. I mean, it was like 24 hours or something, so some big cities would be jealous of that. So, and then third, I saw this chart in the back of our audit, and so in the last 10 years, we've only raised our property tax rate by 2 cents. And yet we've given raises, we've done all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff we're getting for the money. So I just wanted to put it out there to the community that we are using your money in a very good way. I mean, we compare, no offense to the school board, but they've gotten an extra 0.57 cents. So we've only got 2. We're making the most of your 2 cents, I promise. So,
Thank you, Chris. Steve?
Again, thanks. Great job. It's always, I tell people, I said, we always know where our money's going in the city, and part of that's the staff that does that. Thanks to everybody who helped with the dinner the other night. It was great to see everybody, and hope the staff had a good time. It's good when you can get together and not talk shop and just enjoy people's company. So that's all I have.
Larry?
Sorry, I missed the dinner the other night. It's well-deserved, and I'm glad we did it. Again, sorry I wasn't there. Just a couple of attaboys, I guess. The academic team apparently continues to do extremely well, and congratulations to them. And the boys basketball team also doing very well. So everything's just wonderful in Mexico, Missouri, it sounds like.
Chris?
I have nothing to say.
Okay. Well, thank you. And it was an excellent report that we got from the auditors, and it's nice to hear such nice compliments about our staff. You all do such a great job, so thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to public comment. Anybody, I don't think we have much public here tonight. If you want to say something, step forward to the mic. You have 3 minutes, and state your name and your address. Okay. With that, we will adjourn to executive session.
Need a motion.
Need a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Missouri Resmo 610-021, litigation and legal advice.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.